So use kids like Raw. They tell me if I do weekly reviews of Raw, it's going to equate into more traffic. First, thanks for supporting us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. You saw the t-shirt pimp prior to this, so please visit Pro Wrestling Tees for premier pro wrestling merchandise and stream our content, exclusive content from Patreon and PivotShare. Want you to note on Patreon, there's over 500 exclusive matches. Best bang for your buck, Premier Pro Wrestling on Patreon. So I'm going to review the first segment from Monday, January 16th, WWE Monday Night Raw. I want you guys to notice something, and you've got all these idiots out there taking microphones and trying to be stars, but nobody ever gets over or connects with the crowd. Also, not just the indie, it's everybody else in the industry. Please notice, first off, how many years the Usos learned this industry from inside of the ring and barely said a word. Once they got that down and were drawing money and were worth investing in, now they've got the microphone. They can carry a segment. The other thing is, I want you to notice how the Usos speak in mostly slang. That's the Samoan culture in the part of the country where they come from. They've learned to keep their, what I'm going to call idiosyncrasies, which establishes and reestablishes their character in their language. And also Finn Balor, who's got an obviously thick Irish or Scottish accent. Finn was in the business how many years before he touched a microphone? And also notice how he keeps his idiosyncrasies and his accents, but you can understand these guys. See where they slow down and they give the crowd a cue to react. Look at the build-up of one of the Usos said, and the pop when he finally said the name merely, Roman Reigns. They're getting outstanding mileage out of the Dominic stuff. That stuff's amazing. And again, he's a young guy. He's getting over. They spent a lot of time and money building him up. He's over, and he's finally in a really cool spot where he doesn't need dad to be over and sell merchandise. So, that being said, Dominic is probably terrified of a microphone, as is that Puerto Rican kid, who I forget his name now, but you know who I'm talking about. I'm going to go ahead and call him the Puerto Rican version of Rands, because that's where he's headed. And the fact that they stick to what they're supposed to say, and they enunciate. And if you notice that big kid, the kid that's working as Umaga 2023 with the Usos, doesn't say a word because it would have killed him off. Now, last thing I'm going to say about it is this. If you notice the crowd's anticipation to see if the big Samoan tough kid was going to go with Rhea Ripley, I would have said 5 years ago, what are they doing, man versus woman? This guy's an Umaga. Why would anyone want to see this with Rhea Ripley? Well, Rhea Ripley has proved herself, and if she can throw her around, the other divas, all the other divas, including and not limited to, I forget that great big girl, Honeydew, I don't know, I don't remember her name, but she was gigantic. Dewdrops. If she could muscle Dewdrops, she's not going to be able to believably beat that big, rough Samoan, but she's at least going to be able to hurt him, and everybody in the building knows that. Now, last thing I'm going to say is I like how they built up to that. Rhea didn't look afraid whatsoever. Even I was waiting there seeing what was going to happen, and I didn't notice that little shit that I dislike so much, Prince Habibu Ali, coming off the top and cutting it off before the girl and the Samoan went at it. Solo versus Mufasa Ali. I like to call him Prince Habibu. First off, I don't like him as an individual. As an indie tard, an indie it, I know two kids that I personally like that were harmless. His goal on the indies was to outwork the guy in the ring so he could drop them on their heads and then go in the back of the locker room and feed his ego and yell at these guys who are half dazed and probably don't remember it and make himself think he was better than. He's good fodder. He's better than he was. He's starting to kind of get it. And I guess at the end of the day, if you looked at the numbers in a publicly traded company, his ethnicity and the fact that he's got a decent body and can do a handful of special things is what keeps him there. That being said, Solo is green and they're throwing him to the Lions, but this kid is stepping up and doing an outstanding job for as green as he is. Again, with Ali, you can call me this, call me that. I really don't care. I know what I know. He seriously hurt 2 kids and could have really, really permanently hurt 2 kids that I know in the Indies, doing exactly what I just told you he did. Now, people can change unless he's made some sort of public statement on it. I don't buy it. But I do know his ethnicity, number one. Also, the fact that he can do a handful of cool things. I'm not taking that away from him. And the fact that he was able to early on totally Eddie Haskell Adam Pearce. Now, I know Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce gives me credit on WWE.com for training him. And Adam has got a soft spot for certain guys just like I do. However, Prince Habibu Ali seems to be listening to Pearce, so to his credit, I'll give him that. Now, outstanding way that they kept the Uso Owens thing from being finished by any stretch of the imagination. It was nice to see Owens get his comeback. The one thing I will say, less is more. When you're watching the matches, these guys tend to take it real easy on each other today when it comes to the forearms, the punches, and the strikes. But outside the ring, they don't have the camera switches that they have to cover that. That being said, less is more. Lay in a few shots and sell said shots, but don't miss with the shots. And that was a great promo with the Shush Kid and Otis and Dominic and them. If you notice, once again, Rhea says not much. She has her accent, but she's also enunciating. Now, like I said before, Dominic is probably really nervous, and you could kind of see it in this promo or segment, vignette, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it's outstanding to see how that Shush Kid can carry the promos like that for Rhea, who's just learning how to speak, Dominic, who's scared as hell, and then also the big Puerto Rican kid. So the vignette, promo, segment, whatever you want to call it, with Bayley, the girls, and Becky Lynch. I think Becky is trying too hard. I think it was funny when they said Bayley of 2015, or hasn't been over since 2015. I kind of believe Becky hasn't been over since 2018. So that being said, she also confused the fans, and when she begged for it, what do you think, Cincinnati? It was a cheap pop. It wasn't a real pop that she had 3 or 4 years ago. I think that, and I'm not being a prick or being cynical or being mean, I think Becky not touching a microphone for 3 months, but being on every Raw and working her ass off and then revisiting is going to get her back over. So the brief segment with Dolph Ziggler and Mufasa Ali, Prince Habibu. Love the fact that now Dolph Ziggler, and you guys, the internet, Mark and the Idiot, love to call, oh, he's just a jobber. That kid gets $1 million a year guarantee right now. And if you look at the crowd reaction when it was just him, when the camera panned to him in Cincinnati, that crowd became unglued. And then Mufasa came in and killed it off. And it's just so sad to see Mufasa getting that opportunity again. I'm going to say based on ethnicity and his Eddie Haskellness with some people who might have some juice in the back. When he nailed Ziggler, there was nothing. There were crickets. I also want you guys to notice that Ziggler is making $1 million a year guarantee, Mufasa is still at 200,000. So how can you go wrong with Otis and Gable versus Damian Priest with Finn Balor, Rhea in their corner, and Dominic? You can't. I haven't seen Damian Priest for a year, but I called it 2 years ago. They're really going to build a big star there. He's going to be the Puerto Rican Rands within the next 4 or 5 years. Just watch. Gable, unbelievable worker. The guy is unbelievable. He can do it all. And Otis, just no matter how hard that one regime of writers tried to kill him, he is so over. He's another one that's going to be with this company, God willing, until he's ready to leave. Great match, great finish. And Priest, I've got to say, I haven't seen him work in a year, has really gotten comfortable in that ring. The Bianca and Alexa segment. First of all, when I see Bianca, again, I haven't watched for a long time, I'm like, oh, are they kind of going over the top with all this bling and blah, 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 blah? But no, as soon as she opens her mouth, she's just such a believable, real chick, and she's just adorable. And I don't mean that I want to bone her. I'm just saying, if you do the market research, that is an adorable, adorable girl. She's like a live Bratz doll, the hot ones. And Alexa always blows my mind how she could get over for her actual size. Yes, she's gorgeous and all that, but she's a tiny thing, especially compared to Bianca, but it was believable. They're doing an outstanding job of pimping their upcoming pay-per-view. You guys probably don't even know what hit you with the marketing prowess. And God bless them. I've always been a fan of monster-type stuff in wrestling. And, with what they had to work with for that big open arena, I think they're doing a pretty good job of branding that monster gimmick. I know it's over. In 2008, I presented a handful of guys to John Laurinaitis, who talent relations then rose and set in his ass. I mentioned to him Seth Rollins, Nigel McGuinness, and John Moxley. I can't explain how Seth Rollins gets over. Yes, he's a good worker. Yes, you can understand him on the mic. I don't explain it. I can't understand it. But the bottom line is he's over and compelling and has been for a long time. God bless him. Like I say, it's been a long time since I've watched Raw, but they're doing an incredible job of not only pimping their revenue streams, meaning the upcoming pay-per-views, but also pimping what you can expect next week on Raw. And that's really something because the legends always bump the ratings. So they're doing a great job of that and then spilling it all into the first upcoming pay-per-view, which I'm sure is going to lead to compellingly WrestleMania. I have to make mention of, I'm watching Raw on Tuesday night on Hulu, and a Vagisil commercial came on, and right out of the box they say, vulvas are wonderfully beautiful and sensitive. I don't know, in one way, shape, or form, I guess I'm excited, but on the other hand, I go, this is going a little bit too far. What if they had commercials that said something for Gold Bond on your testicles? God bless. That's all I have to say. I guess Vagisil's money's as good as any other sponsor, but I don't think I've ever heard vulva actually used on primetime television. So I thought that six-way elimination was really a decent-ass match. At the end of the day, those matches usually end up to be such a clusterfuck. Couple of things I noticed. In the beginning, oh hell, I'm not going to bury anybody. They all worked their asses off. Austin Theory has really evolved to get these people to give a shit about him. That superplex spot, that was pretty cool. Look for that one on every independent wrestling show this weekend and next weekend. I wanted to point out that Miz and Ziggler were the ones in there to really get Lashley over in the match. Miz and Ziggler, with their fighting, their punching, their kicking, their brawling, compared to Finn and Seth Rollins, just go back and look at the crowd reaction to theirs and to Finn and Seth's. The other thing I wanted to say about Ziggler and Miz working together, especially into that figure four, which was outstanding, especially after all of that crazy with 6 guys involved, was really compelling. And it was so compelling the way those 2 guys worked it, that great finish that Seth did on Miz wouldn't have been so great if they hadn't worked it and built it up to that point. At the end of the day, everyone in that match worked their asses off. And definitely Ziggler and Finn really earned the money that they're making there. At the end of the day, I thought it was an outstanding thing that they did there with that swerve of putting Lashley over. And I guess we'll see what happens next week on Raw. I love to see them build to a program with their main event on this Raw going into next Raw. And love to see if Theory's evolved enough to be believable. And I'm sure it's going to be. I don't see why it wouldn't be outstanding against Bobby Lashley. Okay, like I said, they tell me that I should be watching Raw and NXT and SmackDown and letting you guys know my thoughts, that we'd get more followers, subscribers, and I get more people to give a shit about Premier Pro Wrestling. That's what I'm doing here. If you notice, there's no YouTube commercials on, but I want you to also notice that we really need your support on Pivot Share and Patreon, our shirts and merchandise, pro wrestling tees, and on our Patreon, there's over 500 exclusive matches at the $6 tier. You're not going to get more bang for your buck than that. All right, we'll see how this gets over. Appreciate all of you that listened. Give a shit. Please like and subscribe while you're here.